Hey, girls. Hey, girls. Come on, girls. Hey, girls. What's up, mama? What's up, buddy? Hi. You're looking a little teary. Flies bugging you? Flies bugging you? Come on, mama. Hey, good morning, everyone. I just was gonna shoot a quick video here because I've got a pretty good outbreak of thistle going, Canadian thistle, that kind of started earlier this year with just a few spots in the pasture, and it just seems like stuff exploded throughout the majority of this front pasture, and it really still is kind of in a specific area. Come on. It still does kind of seem like it's in a specific area in this pasture, which is basically along this whole kind of middle strip going up. But come on, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. But yeah, so I was hoping to get some advice from you guys. Let me finish getting the cows moved over and closed off into their new area, and then I'll kind of show you what I'm dealing with. But I don't know the best route to take with it. I don't know if I should be, I mean, obviously I don't want to be spraying chemicals, but it's really started to affect the grazing that we're getting out of this pasture, just because they're having to be even more selective when they get into these strips that's heavy with thistle, because obviously they're not really eating it. So if you remember the video I had next door when I was on that lease next door, come on, let's go, come on. Sorry. The video I had next door when they were on that lease next door, they were eating thistle. So, but that was the thistle flowers, and these plants were pretty damn near mature. The flowers were nice and purple, and the plant themselves was were pretty tall, and they were kind of just nipping off the tops of them. A lot of this stuff in this pasture is very, very young, very short. It's starting to flower a little bit, but they're just little tiny flowers. And so they're not biting off the thistle like I had hoped. And honestly, even if they were, that's not gonna solve the problem. I mean, it's just like if you mow a thistle, it's gonna grow back. Now, repeated grazings, repeated mowings, eventually it's my understanding, it will stop growing in that area, or it'll become so weak that then it can't compete with the grass. But there's so much of this thistle in this pasture, and I know what originated it. When we built our house, obviously we had earth moving equipment. Basically the dirt pile for the house was here when they dug our foundation, and then up there kind of by the barn, you see a bunch of that kind of tan looking foxtail stuff. We had basically the spoil pile, so boulders we were digging up. The cement trucks would kind of clean up and unload right there, and there was just a lot of ground disturbance and a lot of equipment that was running over the same area time and time again. And so it killed all the grass, and the thistles moved in just because they like to go where soil is, where the grass is sparse and they have a lot of compacted soil. It's basically nature's way of trying to heal compacted soil, because thistles have such deep tap roots and very thick roots that they will break up that soil surface to allow more, moisture infiltration and all that. So last year they were really bad up there, and I actually ended up spraying last year, but it was a small enough area that I could do it with a backpack hand pump sprayer. But even with good grazing management this year, or what I felt has been good grazing management, the stuff has just exploded. And I don't know if it was the right amount of moisture combined with hot weather or what, but it has overtaken this pasture. And like I said, it's getting to the point where this whole middle third, the grazing has been very uneven and very selective by the cows, just because they have to work around all this thistles. So I'll kind of give you a closer shot of what I'm looking at. So this is a good shot of some of these strips, what I'm dealing with. And they grazed it very, very low. They grazed the grass very, very low. And that was because in a 24-hour period, the strip size I was giving them, there just wasn't enough to eat quality forage, palatable forage, because the majority of the strip, or at least 40-50% of the strip was made up of thistles. So they came back and took repeated bites off of some of this grass, and they really took it down. I mean, I've got soil showing in some areas, but so if we walk our way up, you can see the thistles are starting to pick up. And this would have been in that same strip. This was 3 days ago. This was a strip 3 days ago. So, I mean, it's crazy. When you look at the pasture from like our driveway, kind of that 30,000 foot view, you see green, and you think, it almost looks like alfalfa in some lights. And you think, man, there's a lot of good stuff out there. That pasture's looking green and healthy, but it's all damn thistle. This is bad. This is horrible. This is the worst I've ever seen it. And it basically goes kind of like I was saying. There's a washout. So from the neighbor's property up there by the road, it kind of gets into this ravine, and it traces itself all the way down, and then heads off into the neighbors over there. It's almost like someone dumped a ton of thistle seeds up at the top there, and we got a good rain, and it just washed them all the way down, because it's just this whole kind of corridor. But it started to spread as well up towards the house. It's starting to get over here a little bit. It's bad. It's really bad. Like I said, I even sprayed last year in the fall. I sprayed this front pasture in the fall, but it was such a small chunk. Obviously the thistle seeds had already gotten into the soil. They're already laying dormant in the soil, but it was a small enough chunk last fall that I could do it with a hand sprayer, a backpack hand sprayer, but there's no way I could do that this year. And I, from what I have read, the best times to spray are when they first start popping up in the spring. So if you can get them killed off before they really start to take root in the spring, and then if it's bad enough, again in the fall, when they're taking up as many nutrients as possible to kind of overwinter, you spray them down again. And so a lot of that herbicide gets drawn up into the roots, and then they basically put it into storage to get through the winter, and then that kills them from deep down, and you shouldn't have as big of an explosion next year. And that actually worked really well in the back pasture. We had just a small chunk from the neighbors before the neighbor who's there now bought it. The dude who lived there before, like I said, the pasture was fallow. Every year he had just a ton of thistles that popped up in his pasture, and then they would go to seed. The wind obviously blowing out of the north, heading south, would blow all the seeds onto our property. So we had a small chunk of that back pasture that got overrun with thistles last year as well. And I sprayed in the spring, I sprayed in the fall, and then I sprayed in the spring again this year. And I haven't had nearly, I've had small patches, but I haven't had nearly the amount of thistles back there the rest of this year. So I know it works. I guess I just want advice on what you guys feel is the best way to attack this right now, and then the best way to try and stop this from happening, because there's obviously an imbalance in my soil. And I guess that's the first thing. I absolutely need to get a soil test this year. I should have done that last year. I ran out of time. I mean, no excuses. I had time, but I ran out of time I didn't make it a priority. That drought we had last year, the ground was rock solid, even going into October. And it's my understanding that if you do a soil test and you're going to put out any amendments, you should do that in September, October, so the ground can take it up and it can be kind of stored and utilized before the grass goes dormant, which, you know, is pretty obvious. So I didn't get that done last year, but that is absolutely something I need to get done this year, because there's obviously an imbalance of something in my soil. It is missing nutrients. It's, you know, its pH is off, whatever, to allow these thistles to really take off. So that is the first thing I need to do. And I know that, and that's the plan. But as far as spraying herbicide, is, you know, spreading granulars, you know, I've even had some more conventional guys, neighbors and my uncle and stuff like that suggest, you know, do a combination spray and like liquid herbicide, liquid fertilizer, because another great way to combat unwanted plants is to support the plants that you really want. So getting some fertilizer in will help the grass growth and will help choke out, you know, the thistle. So yeah, what do you guys think? Should I go with like a granular spreader? I think I can rent a 3-point spray liquid. I can, you know, maybe try and get something for the UTV a little bit smaller. I don't know. I guess I'm just looking for advice here. Any of you guys that have dealt with Canadian thistle or any sort of thistle plants, how did you get rid of it? What time of year did you really attack it? Did it work? Did it not work? What's your preferred method? And then what can I do from here on out to ensure that I stop this from happening next year? Again, I really want to stay away from chemicals, but I'm at the point where I understand that chemicals are going to have to happen. And one of the issues that I have with the chemicals is whatever I'm going to put on here to take care of the thistle is also going to take out my legumes. As far as I know, there's nothing out there that's going to kill the thistles and leave the clover alone or leave the alfalfa alone. But as you can see, not much clover has been allowed to grow right here anyway, because the thistles have gotten so thick. So if I need to take out some legume plants or some legumes, excuse me, that's fine, because I'm starting to lose them anyway. So I've accepted it. We're going to have to get chemicals involved. But after the initial shock of the chemicals, what can I do? What can I do to help this pasture from having a thistle outbreak like this again and recovering? So let me know what you guys think. Otherwise, things are going great. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We've probably got about 13 to 14 days left on this front pasture, and then we'll be moving them out back. I'm still giving them this, 250 by 16, I think it was 250 feet by 16, every day for 24 hours, and they seem to be doing good. But again, we've kind of started to get into this area of the pasture where they're grazing more grass than I would like, just because the thistles are kind of making it hard for them to get enough to eat. But once we get past this chunk, actually pretty much from here on out, I don't have a thistle problem. So, and they're gonna get a good amount to eat. But yeah, finish up down here, then we're gonna move into the back pasture, and I'm gonna rotate them through that, get at least 30 days out of the back pasture. That should put us hopefully pretty much all the way through October at that point. Maybe, October 25th or something like that. So we might have a week or less where I'll have to figure out what to do. Hopefully we get some rain the rest of September, the rest of October, so I can move them back into this front pasture and have a good graze on it again. So Yeah, thanks for the help. Again, any advice is welcome. Any comments are welcome. You know, I'm not too proud to say I have zero idea what I'm doing, and you know, I'm not going to be offended by anything you guys say. If I'm totally off my mark here, just tell me. I'll take what I can get. Free information, man. Those of you that have had this problem and fixed it, I'm all ears. So let me know. Thanks, guys.